This is the newsroom for today, Thursday, November 12, 2020. We're broadcasting to you on E1, Scar TV, NTN, and Tarzi TV in Artica. In the headlines, the Foreign Secretary Robert Persaud speaks about a new, easy, and fast process for persons to remigrate to Guyana.
And immediately, we went to work and developed what we call a remigration brochure.
Another COVID-19 death takes Guyana's death toll to 138 at St. Cuthbert's Mission grapples with an outbreak of 167 cases, of which 30 are children. Guyana Restaurant Week will kick off next week under strict COVID-19 guidelines. And in sport, a New Zealand journalist shares her perspective on West Indies' COVID-19 breach with the newsroom. With the news, I'm Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for joining us. We started by telling you that the Guyana government is pushing ahead with plans to harness the expertise, talent, and investment potential from thousands of Guyanese currently living abroad. As such, renewed efforts are being made by the Diaspora and Remigration Unit at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation to make remigrating to Guyana fast and easy. Kurt Campbell reports.
The new Diaspora and Remigration Unit within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation anticipates a heightened level of interest by Guyanese looking to remigrate, and as such has engaged in a renewed effort to make remigration convenient and expeditious. The unit has sought to remodel the remigrant scheme to address many of the difficulties Guyanese in the diaspora encountered previously when resettling in Guyana. A brochure, Remigrating to Guyana, which clearly outlines the process for returning to the country, can be found on the website of the ministry, along with the websites of Guyanese embassies and high commissions overseas. Foreign Secretary Robert Persaud told the newsroom on Thursday that the unit, through its renewed efforts, has sought to address the information gap and hassle that previously characterized the scheme.
And one of the gaps that we had noticed was persons were unclear as to how they can go about accessing the remigration scheme. And immediately we went to work and developed what we call a remigration brochure that is now available on the internet, but also at all our missions and embassies, where persons can go and access the basic information they need to know in remigrating.
The Foreign Secretary said Guyanese will soon be allowed to apply for remigration online in accordance with the law, ending a previous process that insisted on physical applications and the movement of information among several agencies. He cautioned that the granting of tax exemptions is not automatic, as the Guyana Revenue Authority is now being allowed to do its own assessment. The Foreign Secretary explained too that this is among the safeguards in place to guard against the abuse of the system.
Yes, there are safeguards. In fact, there are very strict safeguards. And the fact that you have two entities which have to more or less approve the processes is an additional built-in safeguard against its abuse, because the first process is done by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, where a recommendation is made. Then that recommendation goes to the GRA. It's not automatic that the GRA itself would accept that. So there is another, if the GRA feels that someone may not have been qualified, they have the opportunity to review that.
The Foreign Secretary assured that the government was also looking to stem the tide of migration and keep Guyanese with skills and capital at home. He said while the government continues to provide opportunities through job creation and social and economic amenities, there is little that can be done about the pull factors.
We cannot do anything about the pull factors, as it were. That's beyond our control. But in Guyana, we can address the push factors, where you can address issues of security, economic stability and economic opportunities, social stability, in terms of health care, in terms of housing. These are the push factors that we, as it were, through government policies, government intervention, you can address. The pull factors where families are abroad or other circumstances, those are beyond our control.
According to an analysis of the Guyanese diaspora done by the Washington-based Center for Strategic and International Studies, only about half of Guyanese now live within the borders of Guyana, with the remainder scattered in the diaspora community across the globe. The analysis found that Guyana's immigration rate is one of the highest in the world, numbering about 30,000 annually, a sizable portion for a country with a total population that has never reached 1 billion. Kurt Campbell, Newsroom.
St. Cuthbert's Mission continues to record a large number of COVID-19 cases as authorities are battling to contain the outbreak in the Region 4 indigenous community. Among those tested positive are 30 children. Bibi Katoon reports.
From November 9th to the 12th, St. Cuthbert's Mission, which has a population of some 1,500 persons, has recorded 123 new COVID-19 cases, including 30 children. To date, there are 167 positive cases, of which 70 were recorded in the past 3 days. The village Tushao, Beverly Clenkian, told the newsroom that the youngest patient is 4 years old, while the other children are between the ages of 6 and 12.
One is that, seeing that we are in the lockdown, they are not getting to do any meal, and they have their lives to live, but we have to cope with it because it's our interest and it's our safety. See, in St. Cuthbert, all persons are indoors. Only the ones who come to do testing are out here.
She explained that the community began swabbing residents for the disease on November 1st, when one person who traveled from the community was tested positive. The oldest resident who was tested positive is an 87-year-old woman. The community is currently on a 2-week lockdown as the Ministry of Health conducts mass testing. During his daily COVID-19 update on Thursday, Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony said it is expected that the cases in the community will continue to increase as testing continues. However, he is optimistic that by the end of November, the spread of the disease in the village will be contained.
As we do more testing, I expect that those numbers would go up. So we have to get people to self-isolate. We have to get people to reduce their social activity within St. Cuthbert's. And I guess once we're able to accomplish that, some level of social distancing within the community, people stay at home and so forth, then we'll be able to bring the cases under control. We have added a medical team there, and they're currently on the ground, would remain there for the duration of this lockdown. And through CDC has been helping them with hampers. So I think in about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we should be able to control the amount of cases that we have there, and we should see a steep decline.
The majority of persons who tested positive are isolated at home. If these persons develop symptoms, they are moved to the Infectious Diseases Hospital at Liliandale, East Coast, Demerara. Bibi Katoon for the newsroom.
And Guyana has recorded another COVID-19 death, taking the overall death toll from March to now to 138. The Ministry of Health revealed that the latest fatality is a 61-year-old man from Region 4 who died on November 11 while receiving medical care. This is the 12th person to die from the disease for the month thus far. And still ahead on the newsroom, Guyana Restaurant Week will kick off next week on the strict COVID-19 guidelines, and the government of India is seeking to fund Phase 2 of Guyana's Diamond-Ogle bypass road. Stay tuned. This is the newsroom. The 5 new dual-fuel generating sets, which are expected to boost the power supply of the Demerara-Berbice interconnected system by 46.5 megawatts, have arrived at the Garden of Eden power plant with new assurances that the substation is on track for April 2021 completion. Kurt Campbell reports.
The 5 Wärtsilä generators, which have been repeatedly touted to be among the breakthrough initiatives for increasing electricity supply, have finally arrived at its Garden of Eden East Bank Demerara location. But while these generators are now in the possession of the Guyana Power and Light Incorporated, citizens are being reminded that it will not come on stream until the end of April 2021, when the almost 50-year power plant at Garden of Eden completes its upgrade. The generators arrived in Guyana from Finland on November 5 and were later placed on a barge at the John Fernandez Wharf for transport to the East Bank Demerara facility. The upgrade to the Garden of Eden generation plant, which was first commissioned in 1974 with 2 generators and later recommissioned in 1997 with 2 more generators, is being regarded as the largest generation project to date, promising landmark efficiency. Currently, engineers are carrying out both below-surface civil works and above-ground civil works at Garden of Eden. Some amount of additional interconnection will need to be done before the 46 megawatt comes in stream next year. Minister within the Ministry of Public Works, Deodat Indar, witnessed the offloading of the generators on Wednesday. He said this is testimony to the government's commitment to providing reliable power to citizens within the first 100 days in office.
But I just wanted to show the nation that we did mention this when we first came into government, that this was purchased, where it was. And when it comes to Guyana, we now have to sit here and wait for another couple of months until we finish the civil works. And then that will be tied up into the existing network to boost base load capacity.
Indar said this will be added to the current Demerara-Berbice interconnected system, but the government will also have to look at upgrading old transmission lines. Meanwhile, Chief Executive Officer of the Guyana Power and Light, Albert Gordon, assured that the project remains on schedule. He said it was very important for a number of reasons.
One, as Minister said, it is part of additional capacity that we're adding. Over the years, we have been working with very slim reserve margins, and so that a generator trips and we have interruptions in supply to customers because we don't have enough backup capacity, or because the system becomes unstable. When you don't have enough reserve for other generators to pick up the load, you lose that balance and the entire system may go down. So this plant, along with the additional generation that we're adding to the system, will be very significant in that respect.
Gordon was backed up by Ryan Ross, the Divisional Director of Engineering Services, with responsibility for the Watsilum project. He reiterated that it was the largest project to date for GPL, labeling it as a significant achievement. Ross added that his team of other subcontractors were working assiduously to complete the project by the due date. He said currently it is about 58% complete. Kurt Campbell, Newsroom.
Now, the Indian government is likely to fund Phase 2 of the Diamond-Ogle road link through a second line of credit, according to the Indian High Commissioner to Guyana, Dr. KJ Srinivasa. India in 2015 approved $50 million by the Indian Exim Bank for the project, but alterations under the former APNU AFC government led to the overall cost significantly increasing. Dr. Srinivasa told the newsroom during a recent interview that the countries are now engaging in discussions to facilitate a second line of credit for Phase 2 of the project.
So we are having a fund of $50 million US. We are now in the process of working on 2 phases for this project, because the original fund was 50 million, but then the estimates went beyond that to 177 million. So we are now fitting half of the distance. We are going to work now with $50 million US. So the necessary approvals are being taken back home in India, and once that comes in, we'll go to the tendering process.
Would you be doing the second phase as well?
That we are in discussions, okay, because it will require another line of credit. So that is being considered by the governments, both the governments.
The Diamond-Ogle bypass road is expected to severely reduce traffic congestion on the east bank of Demerara. The final systems are being put in place by the Indian Exim Bank before the tender process opens for construction of the road to begin. Under the agreement with the Indian government, it will be done by Indian contractors, but with local content clause in the contract to include over 50% participation of Guyanese. Now, Guyana Restaurant Week will be held for the first time this year under different circumstances due to COVID-19. The annual and highly anticipated culinary event is slated to begin on November 20 and will conclude on November 29. This year, there are only 15 participating restaurants offering outdoor dining to a limited number of persons, and for those who do not feel safe to come out, there is delivery and curbside pickup. The event is also being viewed as a COVID-19 relief and a chance for participating restaurants to get back on their feet. Isnal Patwa tells us more.
Guyana Restaurant Week is usually held twice per year, but the first event, which was scheduled for June this year, was cancelled as a result of the global COVID-19 pandemic. Now the organizers, the Tourism and Hospitality Association, believe the event can be done safely with strict COVID-19 guidelines in place. Restaurant Week will begin on November 20th and will conclude on November 29th. Selected high-end restaurants will be offering their menus at a reduced price. President of the Tourism and Hospitality Association, Mitra Ramkumar, says they are hoping to have the usual support as they will be providing delivery service, curbside pickup, and limited outdoor dining with all COVID-19 measures in place.
Our protocol says that we will only do outdoor dining. Tables will be 6 feet apart. And so all of those protocols will be observed. The tables are sanitized prior to and after dining, as well as all the utensils. This is in addition to the regular protocol that you would expect going into any business, where you get sanitized at the entrance, your temperature is checked, So all of these systems are in place, and this is why we believe that Guyana Restaurant Week can be done and people can be able to come out, explore, eat and repeat safely.
Ramkumar explained that the event will create a relief for the restaurants during this time. There are 15 participating restaurants this year, including the Agman Restaurant, Java Bistro, Marriott, Windjammer in Georgetown, and Wutuka in Linden, Region 10. Some restaurants have implemented creative ideas to keep everyone safe. Over at Cafe Belvana on Middle Street, Georgetown, a non-touch barcode scanner menu is offered. The menu also doubles as a warning when turned over to notify customers if the table was used and was not sanitized. At the Duke Lodge restaurant in Kingston, Debbie Gavaya explained that the menu is offered online.
Well, yes, we have our menus going to be digital. But for persons that do not have like a phone that can do it, we also have printed menus, right? We're going to try to refrain a lot from those because every time they use the menu, we will have to discard the menu or sanitize it back. Well, we always participate, but during this COVID time here, I think people need to have some sort of break from being at home and being locked away. Right, so we've decided, the staff and I decided we will participate this year just to give people, right, an outing.
The participating restaurants are also required to implement the Green Initiative, where the use of biodegradable boxes, paper bags instead of plastic bags, and limited plastic utensils is recommended. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isana Lopatwo.
The government, with funding from the United Kingdom, has commenced rehabilitation works at the Diamond East Bank Demerara and Lenora West Coast Demerara Diagnostic Centers to install renewable energy sources and more services. The Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, on Thursday said works will be done at Mabruma in Region 1, Letham in Region 9, and Paramakotoi in Region 8. Dr. Anthony further disclosed that 100 other health facilities have been assessed and will be upgraded.
So what we have done with this whole smart hospital concept is to ensure that these hospitals would not be flooded in case of rain. And in fact, when it rains, we must be able to catch the rainwater and utilize it in a more sustainable way. And when it's sunny, that we can have solar panels that would take the sunshine, convert that into energy, so that we can utilize it for the appliances that we are running. So that's one area that we have remodeled the Diamond Hospital to be more, to use sustainable energy then, renewable energy in terms of solar and to make the facility more climate resilient. The other area that we have looked at is that the whole layout of Diamond internally, patient flow was not as it should have been, ideally in a hospital setting. The rooms there were very cluttered, and for you to get from one area to another area, there were too many corridors that you had to negotiate to get from one place to another. And that's not really friendly to a patient, especially somebody who's in pain and so forth. So what we have done is to redesign the interior of the facility to allow for optimum patient. Finish off Diamond, we are going to start on some other hospitals and do the same thing with them, make them climate resilient, put in renewable energy sources and so forth. And so the next hospital that we'll be working on is at Lenora. And already we have initiated some work there, talking to the residents, decanting the services that we currently have at Lenora, and we'll start work on the actual hospital building. We also are going to do similar work at Mabaruma, Letham, and Paramakotoi. So using the smart hospital concept, we have already 5 hospitals where we will be using these principles to enhance the facilities that we have. The funding to do all of this is coming from the United Kingdom, and so that funding is already here with us, and we have been using this to implement these projects. Through that funding as well, we have assessed about 100 other facilities in Guyana to see if we need to upgrade them and do similar things using these principles.
When the newsroom returns, the financial, weather and bridge reports along with sport. Welcome back to Newsroom. Now for a look at what's happening in sport. We're starting off with some cricket news. It was reported this week that members of the West Indies cricket team compromised the integrity of the biosecure environment in New Zealand by sharing food and socializing in the hallways of their government-approved hotel. The players are split into groups of 20 and were allowed to train separately after being granted special permission by the New Zealand health authorities. They now have been barred from training for the rest of their managed isolation period in Christchurch. Akim Green spoke to New Zealand journalist Tasneem Samar Khan for her perspective on the matter.
What was the initial reactions in New Zealand when the news got out of the breaching the protocols?
So I think some people were a little upset. Obviously, it's the first big international that we've hosted here in New Zealand. It's definitely the first cricket. There was some rugby, but that was with Australia. And there's an intimate relationship between those two countries, and there's a travel bubble anyway. So people were a little bit upset. People feel that sports is a privilege. It's a privilege for fans, and it's also a privilege for the players. So I think that people would have liked to see the protocols adhered to a little bit better.
Yeah, I know for sure the tour is not in jeopardy, but going forward, do you think there's a big wake-up call in terms of ensuring that this does not happen again on tour? I know they have to spend 2 more days in quarantine, but it certainly is a big wake-up call for this team.
I think so, because we've also got young guys coming over from the IPL, so they're going to be in a fresh quarantine for the T20s anyway. I think the West Indies camp is probably going to enforce some of the quarantine protocols very strictly. If you're asking what my personal perspective about the protocols that were broken are, I'd maybe like to talk about that a little bit. We have seen protocols broken in the last 6 months in other places, notably Jofra Archer, who made a mistake in England during the West Indies series. And then in other sports like the NBA, American football, you've got the rugby, the NRL rugby in Australia. Personally, I think these are not the most serious of breaches. We don't have the West Indian players bringing unauthorized people into the hotel. We don't have them leaving the hotel. So in a sense or another, they're still in their bubble. Of course, they still breach the rules that were laid out in front of them. So that is going to be a problem. I think the relationships between the two boards are relatively strong. Both sides want to see this go ahead. We all want the cricket that the West Indian guys traveled 56 hours for. And, in New Zealand, we've been starved for since last March. It's really what we all want to see happen, but I think it does draw a line in the sand and says, hey, I know you guys are from countries that are not so affected by COVID like some countries, I don't know, America, UK, other places, Europe have been, but nevertheless, these are our rules. These rules are here for a reason. They're to keep all of us together safe. Please adhere to them. I think the fact that it was a minor breach as compared to other things that could have happened certainly helps. So I don't think that the tour is in jeopardy, but absolutely you're right. Going forward, we're all going to have to definitely be more stringent about the protocols that are applied.
And I guess, how excited are New Zealanders for this tour? I understand that they're going to be some amount of fans in the venues. I think that would be the first for a cricket tournament since the pandemic.
It will. I think that's the most exciting thing about this. Obviously, the cricket in front of us is great. This is a T20 series. Personally, I very much want to see. We're 12 months away from the World Cup if that goes ahead as planned. So it's very important for the West Indies. It's very important for New Zealand, both to test their squad strengths, move up young players, and get themselves ready. The cricket's going to be phenomenal, but that aside, just from a social aspect, many of us haven't gotten to go across the world to cricket matches. I think it is massive positive for New Zealand. Something that New Zealand cricket have done this year for this series that I'm really happy with is that they've reduced entry prices. Previously, we have had tours that have been so expensive that it's been pushing and pricing people out of the game. But this is going to be a cheaper way for people to attend live cricket, have a lot of fun, get to see the West Indies guys, I think for the first time since 2017-18, if I'm correct. So it's been a while, and it's important for everybody. There's massive excitement, no doubt about that. And, you know, guys in maroon in a T20 series, who wouldn't want to see that?
Now, Cricket West Indies has made two crucial appointments ahead of the upcoming series against New Zealand. The Barbados all-rounder Ruston Chase has been named the Test vice-captain, while the dynamic Trinidad and Tobago batsman Nicholas Pooran has been handed the role of deputy of the T20 team. More in this report. All-rounder Ruston Chase has so far played 35 Test matches, scoring 5 centuries and collecting 3 5-wicket hauls with his off-spin bowling. The 28-year-old has been a constant in the Test side ever since his debut against India in Antigua in 2016. During this time, Chase has emerged as one of the most consistent players in the Test side, delivering with bat and ball. He said, and I quote, "I have been making strides in Test cricket since my debut back in 2016, and I see this new role as vice-captain as an honour. It is just for me to try and carry on and try to achieve great things for West Indies. It is all about offering support to the captain, coach and other players as we try to plan strategy and put more wins on the board." End quote. The wicketkeeper batsman Pooran is among the leading white ball players with 2 half-centuries in 19 T20 innings and also averages close to 50 in one-day internationals. The 25-year-old has been steadily rising up the ranks, recently completing a relatively successful stint with Kings 11 Punjab in the IPL. He said, and I quote, "I see this as another opportunity to learn and grow in the game. I was vice-captain for the tour of Sri Lanka earlier this year, so this is continuation of that work. It's always good to share your knowledge as we look to continue the winning mentality. We were successful in Sri Lanka, and this is a series we believe we can get more success against New Zealand." End quote. West Indies are down to face New Zealand in 3 T20s and 2 Test matches in late November, early December. The 3 T20s will take place from November 27 to 30, while the Test matches will start on December 3 and 11. Still in cricket, after initially signalling his intention to play for the West Indies A team in the 2 4-day matches against New Zealand A, which run concurrently with the 2 Test matches, Nicholas Pooran has signed for Melbourne Renegades, but the chief selector Roger Harper indicated that Pooran will fulfill his commitments to the West Indies.
The Australian Big Bash League starts on December 10th and runs until February 10th, and will mean if Pooran goes for the start of the tournament, he would miss either or both of the 4-day matches. The Test matches are from December 3rd to the 7th and December 11th to the 15th. According to ESPN Cricinfo, Pooran was courted by several clubs last year but was unable to play in the tournament. He will be available for 6 matches this season. Usually, teams play 14 matches in the preliminary stages.
What I do know is that when I spoke to Nicholas Pooran to advise him that he was selected to play in the T20 series here against New Zealand, and that we have also given him the opportunity to play in the 2 first-class games, and I asked him if he was willing to play, and he said yes. So yes, he is given a commitment to play the 2 first-class games. That's all I can tell you.
Pooran is the vice-captain of the T20 squad, and West Indies are down to play the host in 3 matches from November 27th to the 30th. Harper previously stated that players in the Test squad who are not featured in the playing 11 can also play the 18 games if they so choose. It provides a perfect opportunity for Pooran to audition for a Test spot, despite only playing 3 first-class matches, the last of which was in December 2014 against Guyana. Harper had noted there is no absolute rule Pooran must play first-class cricket to be eligible for a Test call-up. For the newsroom, Akim Green.
Athletics news now. The St. John's Athletics Department officially announced on Wednesday that 4-time Guyanese Olympian Alian Pompey has been elevated to the position of associate head coach. Pompey, who has also competed at 5 Outdoor World Championship and at the IAAF World Indoor Championship on 4 occasions, spoke exclusively to Newsroom about the latest appointment.
I'm thrilled and excited about the promotion. Obviously, it's something that I've, worked for and looked forward to and hoped that it would happen at St. John's University. I think the goal for most people when they get into coaching is to do so at the highest level. So I think my first reaction is definitely one of joy and pride, and a lot of gratitude for St. John's University for giving me the opportunity to explore all my dreams and aspirations as it pertains to coaching. So I'm very grateful and I'm extremely happy. I think the future for our program pretty much stays the same. Our ultimate goal is to win the Big East and to score at the NCAA level every year, of course. And as far as the program, just continue to provide an atmosphere of success and a place where people can come in and continue to do better than they were before, whether it's on the track or field or in the classroom. Just generally to continue to be better people when they leave us. And I think that's a great start. I know it's going to be a lot of work, but I'm up for it. We've got a great team this year. Despite everything that's happening, they've maintained their focus and they're very goal oriented. So whatever this year and the next season, the next outdoor season has to throw at us, I think we're prepared. So I'm looking forward to it all in all.
And finally, in sport, batsman Will Pukowski and all-rounder Cameron Green are among 5 uncapped players named in Australia's Test squad for the upcoming series against India. Opener Pukowski, aged 22, has hit double centuries in both of his Sheffield Shield matches this season, while Green, 21, averages 72.6 from 4 matches. Seamer Sean Abbott, all-rounder Michael Nazaire and spinner Mitchell Swapson, who have all played white ball cricket for Australia, are the other new faces. The series, which begins on December 17, consists of 4 Test matches, 3 one-day internationals and 3 T20 matches. And with that, we've come to the end of the news for this evening. Of course, you can find updates on these and other stories on our website, Newsroom.gy, our Facebook page and Instagram. On behalf of the entire news team, my name is Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for watching. Be safe. See you next time.